All right, we're recording. And this is the meeting of the Executive Committee of the State Bar of California, May 12, 2020. Ruben Duran.
Present.
Renee LeBron.
Here.
Debbie Manning.
Here.
Sean Saleg. And Alan Steinbrecher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. And we are recording?
We are recording. Do you have the instructions regarding raising hands for people who want to indicate whether they would like to make a public comment?
I have the participants, but I don't know that I have the instructions for the raise hands.
All right, well, let me do a quick, for those of you who are attending on your computer, you can raise your hand by identifying a hand icon at the bottom of your screen and clicking on that if you're interested in making a public comment. If you are participating by phone, you'll need to use the star key in combination with the number 6. Star 6 to raise a hand.
And Dag, could you point people to where the hand signal is on the bottom of the screen?
I don't have access to the hand signal because I'm a participant, but there should be a hand icon at the bottom of your screen when you bring your cursor down. You won't see it until you bring your cursor down toward the bottom of the Zoom screen.
It's not on the Zoom screen for me right now.
Yeah, it's only it's on the participants page for me too.
Right. So as participants, we won't have that icon, but the attendees should have a hand icon that they can use to indicate whether they want to speak or not.
All right. Well then, let's proceed. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alan Steinbrecher, State Bar of California, and the chair of the Executive Committee. This is a meeting, Dag has said, of the Executive Committee. And the first order of business is a call for public comment. If there is anyone either on the telephone or joining the Zoom call from the public who would like to speak, please raise your hand in the manner that Dag has said, finding it at the bottom of your screen. And we'll wait a moment to see if anybody responds. And hello, Sean.
And let me correct the instruction for those attending by phone. If you wanted to make public comment, it's actually star 9, not star 6, to indicate a raised hand.
And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if we can clarify, are you taking public comment on all items right now, or are you taking public comment on each of the individual items on the agenda when we get to those items?
Well, we normally take it on each individual agenda item as it comes up, but I was actually just looking for anybody who might have any kind of public comment since it's such a short agenda today. Is there anybody who has any comments at all that they would like to make, either by phone or in Zoom? Dag, do you see anybody trying to indicate an interest?
I do not. I think that we can move on and determine that nobody's requesting to make a public comment.
So actually, if I could, I know that the chair of the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission is on the call for the purpose of making a public comment on item 3D, and I think she might just be having difficulty raising her hand.
Why don't we move? Thank you. Why don't we move through the agenda then, and when we get to 3D, I will try to remember to ask for that public comment. And if I don't remember, please remind me.
Will do.
So there is no chair's report for this meeting. There's nothing on the consent calendar, so we will move to the first item of business, which is 3A. And is Sarah presenting on that?
Yes, I am. Thank you,
Sarah.
Chair. Hi. Before I begin, is Brady Doer here? Has he been promoted to panelist status?
I have.
Okay, great. So this item requests that the board approve a resolution written in the alternative recommending appointment of 1, 2, or 3 state bar delegates to the American Bar Association House of Delegates. Historically, the board has appointed 11 state bar delegates to the California delegation, but beginning in 2017 with the issuance of the 2017 Governance in the Public Interest Task Force report and the separation of the sections from the state bar, distinctions have been drawn between associational activities more appropriate for entities like the California Lawyers Association and the regulatory activities that drive the state bar's mission. With that directive in mind, the state bar has endeavored to transfer all but one of its delegate seats to the California Lawyers Association and to more tightly focus its House of Delegates participation in ways that more closely intersect with the programmatic work and operations of the state bar. To get to that goal, there have been petitions brought before the ABA Credentialing Committee, agenda items brought before this board, negotiations and discussions with the California Lawyers Association and the American Bar Association. And while we have not received final confirmation of the number of seats the state bar currently holds, our best understanding is that 4 is the magic number. So before I move on to the recommendations, I'm happy to turn the mic over to Office of General Counsel, Assistant General Counsel Brady Dewar, my co-presenter, if there's interest in hearing more about the developments with the CLA, the ABA, or if Mr. Dewar would like to add anything to my very brief history that I just provided.
Are there any questions from the committee?
None
Right.
from me.
Okay. Should I proceed?
Please. I don't
Sure.
believe that
Okay.
Mr. Dewar has any further comments, unless you have any.
No, I'm fine. I'm just here if there are questions for more
Okay,
detail.
very good. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ms. Cohen.
So starting about 2 years ago, the board began making delegate appointments that more closely align with the state bar's mission and focus, as I mentioned. In 2018, the first such appointment was made under that rubric was the appointment of interim executive director, then chief of programs, Donna Hershkowitz. The second such appointment made in 2019 was the appointment of Esther Lynn, the vice chair of the Committee of Bar Examiners, and Ms. Lynn's seat does not become vacant until next year in 2021. So that leaves 3 seats to fill now, assuming that the state bar does in fact hold a total of 4 seats. The recommendation is to fill seat number 1 and seat number 2 with dedicated and talented state bar volunteer stakeholders, Toby Rothschild and Sal Torres, who are willing to step up and assume the role of state bar delegate at the House of Delegates. Mr. Rothschild's expertise as a legal aid lawyer and access to justice advocate and his background in legal ethics and attorney regulation touch on just about every component of the operational areas core to the state bar's mission. Mr. Torres, a current member of the Council on Access and Fairness COAF, brings a focus on diversity and inclusion with a proven track record in that area in his professional and philanthropic life. And the final recommendation is to fill seat number 3 by reappointing interim executive director Donna Hershkowitz to a second 2-year term. So the recommendation contained in the proposed resolution, by the way, will go to the board on consent this Thursday, assuming approval. That's about all I have, if there are questions.
Are there any questions for Ms. Cohen or Mr. Dewar? All right, so we have a recommendation that we adopt the resolution as stated in page 5 of the materials. If we have 1 or 2 or 3 vacancies, Toby Rothschild, Sal Torres, and Donna Hershkowitz in that order. If there is no further comment, the chair would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second, Mr. Duran.
Debbie Manning, and second,
Ruben.
Ruben Duran. Are there any further comments or questions? Would you please call the roll?
Duran,
Aye.
LeBron,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Saleg,
Yes.
Saleg,
Yes.
thank you. Steinbrecher.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item 3B, Judicial Council. Ms. Cohen, I think you're presenting on that as well.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the State Bar appoints 4 lawyer members to the Judicial Council. 2 terms expire this year. This item recommends the 2 vacancies be filled by reappointing current member Rachel Hill and appointing David Fu as a new member. And just a side note in terms of timing, their terms do not begin until September 15th. However, I was recently advised that the new member orientation for the Judicial Council is tentatively currently scheduled for July 22nd. So the timing of this resolution is perfect. So Rachel Hill, it bears mention at the outset that the Supreme Court supports her reappointment. As a woman practicing in the Central Valley with a background in criminal and civil law and litigation and alternative dispute resolution experience, she brings a valuable and unique perspective to the Judicial Council. In her first term, she was appointed to 2 permanent committees and asked to work on 2 of the Chief Justice's working groups. We believe she will continue to make her mark on the Judicial Council as a State Bar member. David Fu. He also comes to the board today supported by the Supreme Court. Mr. Fu is a real estate lawyer based in Arcadia. He litigates regularly in the LA court system and has had a long expressed interest in service to the bar and to the court system. Mr. Fu is a former chair of the Jenny Commission, someone who I've been fortunate to know in that role. He is widely respected and celebrated for his high EQ and his high IQ. He delivers the address on collegiality at the annual orientation for incoming Jenny commissioners, and we believe that he will make an outstanding contribution to the work of the Judicial Council as a State Bar member. And that's all I have.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Cohen?
No questions, Mr. Chair. This is Ruben Duran. With thanks to both of these fine servants, I'd like to move their appointment or move approval of the resolution.
Thank you. Motion made by Ruben Duran,
Second.
second by Debbie Manning.
No, that was Renee.
Oh, Renee, I'm sorry. Thank you, Renee. Renee LeBrand, second. Is there any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Duran,
Yes.
LeBron,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Saleg,
Yes.
Steinbrecher.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item 3C, approval of the 2020 work plan of the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission. And do we have someone who would like to make a public comment on the line?
Alan, I believe that the item for which, I'm not seeing anybody in the list of attendees, but I
Okay.
believe that the item for which Selena Copeland would have wanted to comment would have been the following one on the legislative
Okay.
priorities.
All right, I was unclear on that. All right, Mr. McLeod, would you like to present on 3C?
Yes. Item 3C comes to the Executive Committee from the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission. It presents the work plan for this year, for the board year 2019-2020 of the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission. Current board policy has 4 of its sub-entities bringing work plans before the Board of Trustees to ensure alignment between the work of the sub-entities and the strategic plan of the State Bar. Those sub-entities are the California Board of Legal Specialization, the Council on Access and Fairness, the Committee of Bar Examiners, and the Legal Services Trust Fund. The Executive Committee reviewed and approved the work plans of the first 3 of those groups at its March meeting. Due to the timing of the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission's meeting, it wasn't able to produce a work plan for approval by the Executive Committee in March, so that this item is coming before the Executive Committee at this meeting instead.
Are there any questions from the committee for Mr. McLeod? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Who's that, Sean or Ruben?
All right, Duran.
Thank you. Motion by Ruben Duran,
Second,
Second by Deb.
Debbie.
Thank you.
Second by Debbie Manning.
All right, please call the roll.
Ruben Duran,
Yes.
Renee LeBron,
Yes.
Debbie Manning,
Yes.
Sean Saleg,
Yes.
Alan Steinbrecher.
Yes,
The motion carries.
thank you. Item 3D, approval of addition to legislative priorities. And again, if there's anyone from the public who would like to comment on this item, please raise your hand electronically.
I see, I do see a hand there, a Mr. Benefshe Aklagi, and please forgive my attempt to pronounce the name. But if we can start there, and as you're, Mr. Aklagi, you're going to be given a microphone icon that you will need to unmute. You'll have 3 minutes for comment. And I would actually also like to make a request. If Selena Copeland is on the line, would you please email me and let me know what your phone number is so that we can figure out which of those phone numbers we should open up for comment if you are indeed interested in making public comment and are on the line. Mr. Aklagi, you have the floor.
Thank you. It's your pronunciation was perfect, and it's just Mrs. Aklagi as a rather than Mr. Aklagi. But I want to commend you on the pronunciation. So my name is Banash Aklagi, and I'm honored to address you as the chair of the Legal Services Trust Fund Commission here today, and also extend a word of warm gratitude to Donna for extending the invitation for us to come and support Assembly Stone's bill. Just a little bit of background. I'm sure each of you are well versed in this, but just a bit of background that what the work of the commission is. We oversee the IOLTA and other grants that fund about 100 nonprofit legal aid organizations programs here in the state of California. I'd like to just give you a little bit of background of two of the critical points of where and why IOLTA funding is so critical and how efficient and effective it is. One of the points that you would want to take into consideration is the flexibility of IOLTA monies allows for a true choice by the programs as to how best to allocate for their needs. So therefore, it provides flexibility, major flexibility for the programs to adjust as needs arise. And secondly, the administration of these funds is formula-based, which means that they're tried and true, they're cost efficient, and in the sense of the work for the bar and the bar staff specifically, it makes the administration of it much easier. If I could just point out a couple of items that I know that you have already read, and I'd just like to underscore that's within the materials that you have before you, is that the IOLTA revenue that was predicted from 2019 to 2020, you could see that there's a substantial drop in revenue, almost 70%. That along with private foundation impact, the decrease of the interest and the increase in demand in city and county money is not only apparent to us already, but it's going to continue to grow. So just to give you an example, we've heard from the Legal Aid at Work folks, and one of the points that they had made is that in the last 6 weeks alone, the assistance that they have provided to their clients is more than all of the assistance that they provided in 2019. And those kinds of numbers and that kind of critical need is going to obviously grow. So with that said, just want to really underscore that we are in support of any and all aid at this point to support the legal aid organizations who are strapped, as you all probably know, and the need is continuing to rise based on what we're hearing. Thank you so much for the time to address you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Mr. McLeod, do we have anyone else?
Do not see any other hands, and nobody has emailed me requesting to make a comment.
All right, well, then our presenter is Linda Katz, the Principal Program Analyst and from Mission Advancement and Accountability Division of the State Bar.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to present this item. This item requests approval to add this support for Assembly Judiciary Committee Chair Stone request to add $35 million to the budget for legal services funding. And I don't think I need to repeat what's already been said about the need. But if the executive committee and the board approve this item, it would add this to the legislative priorities for the state bar and would allow a letter to be written in support of this request for the increase to this funding.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the recommendation.
So moved. Debbie,
Debbie Manning moved.
yes.
Thank you.
Duran will second.
Ruben Duran second. Any further comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Duran,
Yes.
LeBron,
Yes.
Manning,
Yes.
Saleg,
Yes.
Steinbrecher.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, that's the end of the business. Is there anything that anyone from the committee would like to bring up? And we will adjourn. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you for the public comments.
May I please encourage all executive committee members to stay on the line, stay on your Zoom call. We're going to use the same link.
Oh, okay.
We're going to bring our